Hi everybody, it's Debbie from Simply Special Crafts. Today we're going to start our stamping series. This was intended as a live class, but due to technical difficulties, we're going to put it up as a regular video. I hope you enjoy it. This will be the very first of our stamping classes. This week we're going to be using some floral dies. We'll be doing some layering, some masking, just kind of getting started working with the stamping platform. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, we have a kit available for this class, and I'm going to start by going through your kit contents with you. You should have, yours won't be in a box, but you should have from your kit, you'll have 6 ink pads, you'll have some stamping card, you'll have 2 smaller pieces of this Imperial Blue Nouveau mirror, you'll have the layering flowers from Hot Off the Press. And if you bought the kit that has the stamping platform, it's available with and without, because we recognize that a lot of people already have a stamping platform. If you bought the one from us, you're going to have a stamp platform by Crafts2. This is really, really easy to use, guys. That's one of the reasons why I chose this one. The things I like about this one is that it has this nice grid on the front of the platform, which aids you in lining things up. I also like the fact that these little magnets help keep your work in place. I would prefer they had more magnets. After playing with this for a little bit, I've actually ordered some supplemental magnet packs from Crafts2, and they'll be here soon. So the only downside is that maybe it would be good if there were more magnets in. Like I said, we have some coming. Now, if I were stamping with my cling stamps, you know, the ones that like the red rubber stamps, I would take this little piece out, and that gives me a deeper place to work here, and I would work directly on this background. But since we are working with clear stamps, I'm going to put this little foam pad back in here, and this is going to raise our height enough that our clear stamps can stamp cleanly. I'm going to go ahead and put in a piece of my stamping card. And what I like to do, and I'm sure there's different ways of doing this, but what I like to do is to put my stamping card right up into the corner. I'm using a piece of the 6x6 from your kit. And it's as easy as that, going ahead and getting started. In addition to the supplies that we sent you, I recommend also having a piece of scratch paper available. This was a piece of cardstock that was kind of messy, so I'm going to use that as my scratch paper. And I also recommend that you have some baby wipes or a slightly dampened paper towel ready to go. And let's go ahead and get started. We are going to be using these layering stamps, so let me get my stamp sheet out here. And what I love about these layering stamps is that these are so quick and easy to use. When you take it out of the package, you're going to see that there's actually 2 pieces of plastic here. You're going to have one piece of plastic that has the designs printed on it. Then there's going to be a back piece of plastic on your kit. Save that back piece of plastic because it makes it easier to load these back up in the package when we're done. But these are so cool because almost every image has more than one stamped image to work with. And that means that we can stamp this without having to actually color it when we're done, because we're going to use different colors of inks to do the different layers of stamping. Now, when you're using layered stamps, you're always going to start with the lightest color first. That's going to be your background. And a word of caution, the most challenging part of doing what we're going to do today is going to be making sure that your stamp is headed the right direction. And you can tell when you look at this, one side has kind of an etched edge to it, and the other side is going to be slightly oversized, and it's just going to be the back of the stamp. You want to make sure that the part we want to stamp with is towards your paper. So I'm going to start with this largest floral image, and I'm going to set it. We're going to do this one first, by the way. This one doesn't require a lot of masking or layering, so it's just a simple. I've kind of spaced everything out so that we can do the simpler one first. I'm going to take this rose and I'm going to put this other rose just slightly lower and off to the left. So you're going to position your two flowers. Now make sure before we close our lid that you have the stamping side down. And again, you can tell the difference because it's wider at the top, on the back side. You want the back side facing up. So when we're ready to stamp, we're just going to close our lid. It's going to pick those stamps up for us. And they are now going to be ready to ink. We're going to ink our background with a very, very light color. This color is called Arctic Mist. And you can really see why when you actually apply this ink. It's not going to look like from our first coat that we're really getting any on here, but it's just supposed to be like a really misty finish, guys. So I'm going to stamp these up good. You can see that I'm just opening my stamp pad and I'm stamping on there. And I'm going to take my top sheet, and you can see that I have a very faint image. I'm going to lay down another set of color right over the top. And one of the things I love about the stamping platform, see, I don't know if you can tell there. Do you need to come in a little bit further, honey? I'm not sure if you can see it there, but there's a part of the image that just didn't transfer. That's okay. Maybe I didn't have as much ink there, maybe I didn't press as hard there, but that's okay. The beauty of a stamping platform is that this is going to go right back in the same place. Now each time you stamp, make sure you're pushing your card right back into the corner because we know that's where we were stamping from. And we're going to ink it up, push down again. You can actually see the ink transferring. If you look, it kind of looks like liquid under the cover when you push on it. And now I'm getting a much more distinct image. I'm going to give it one more shot because I want a fairly intense color in this base layer. Even though it's a light color, I want good color saturation. So I'm going to give it one more shot here. Stamping all around on those. And now I've got a beautiful base color. Look how pretty that color is that we just laid down there. All right, next we're going to go ahead and we're going to get one of our baby wipes out. This will be switching stamps. It's a perfect time to just take your baby wipe and wipe off the stamps. So I'm going to wipe those off and I'm going to put them right back on my sheet. We're going to be using a lot of different stamps here, guys, and I actually recommend you stick them right back on your sheet because then we're not going to be looking for them. And you know me, I lose everything, so. Okay, next, I'm going to take the next layered flower, this one, which has a little bit more detail, and I'm going to take this next layered flower that has a little bit more detail. I'm going to lay them on top of my stamped image so that they can be lined up. And because the stamps are clear, I can actually decide exactly where I want that layer to go. Now I'm taking extra care to make sure that I have this right side up. I want the back of the stamp facing me, and I want the part that's going to actually stamp facing my paper. Make sure your stamps are going the right direction. Line them up carefully. Close your lid. The lid's going to pick up those those stamps for you. Now some of you may have slightly different colors than I have, because we ran out of the first set of colors and I substituted different blues. You will still get fabulous images. Just go to your mid-tone, your next one up. And for us, that's going to be the periwinkle color. I'm going to transfer ink to my stamps here, just patting right on the stamps themselves with my stamp pad. And I'm going to close my lid. And I'm going to get a beautiful second layer of coverage. Now look at that. Isn't that pretty? That's beautiful. I don't really need to, but just because I can, I'm going to go ahead and give these a second coat. They're beautiful just like they are, but just for the sake of illustration, let's go ahead and give them a second go. Close it. Absolutely stunning. Love these blues together. Really pretty. I take my cloth. I'm going to wipe away my ink. What an easy way to clean up, huh? Baby wipes won't hurt your stamps at all. I don't recommend using alcohol wipes on these. The alcohol reacts badly with some kinds of stamping materials, so make sure that you're using just a water-based baby wipe. And here's my detail. I'll show you here. Here's my detail for my third one. This does not have a lot of image on it, so I'm going to take a minute to figure out where I want that to go. Make sure, once again, you're going to get tired of hearing me say this, but I guarantee at some point you're going to be disappointed because you got your stamp on upside down. And then you will get, like I did on this one, look at this blotch of color. That was supposed to be a leaf, but because my stamp was upside down, I got this far through and I stopped because I was not happy with it. I was stamping this one and this one at the same time. As soon as I realized what I'd done, I just tossed it. But I didn't toss it, I kept it as an example so I could say to you, this is what happens if your stamp goes upside down. March is snickering at me here. That's okay. It will happen. When you do, you'll know that, yep, we've all done it. So make sure that stamp is the direction you want it to go. You can also tell by the feel of the stamp on the back. If it's smooth, that's not the front of the stamp. If you feel ridges, double check that. Okay, I've got my third layer on. I'm going to go ahead and open my stamp platform. I'm going to give this a little more intense color this time, or a brighter color. And you can tell when I'm putting it on my stamp that this has some serious color saturation to this one. This one, for me, is called Nautical Blue. I think some of you have French Blue. Oh, and see where I got it on the platform? Unlike working with an acrylic block, you don't have to worry about getting halos from your stamp material going over the sides, because watch what happens. It does not transfer, only the stamp does. And see, I got no problem at all, even though I have a smudge off to the side. And I think that's enough of that color. I like that just the way it is. So I'm going to clean these off. How easy is that for cleanup, guys? I'm in favor of anything that means less work for me. More stamping fun, less work. Sounds like a winner. Okay. Let's give these guys some leaves. So I have on my stamping sheet, here's my double leaf pattern. I'm going to put this double leaf pattern with stamp side down. I'm going to put it right here below my flower. Now this is going to be, I don't know if you can see it, but I'm going to try and get it to you here. See how I have kind of an indent in my flower there? because I'm not masking, and we'll talk more about masking later, I'm going to fit that right into the little ridge between the petals of my flower. And that's where I'm going to line that up. I want another leaf coming down. And this is a good time to talk about this. Sometimes when you have a larger background and a smaller piece, it's hard to tell which direction these leaves go. Let me show you here. When I look at this, I think, well, that must be the back of my leaf pattern there. To make sure what you got going on, try laying the detail stamp on top of it. And this is going to be fine. The part with the little notch in the bottom is in fact the back of my leaf. I hope that makes some sense what I'm saying. Oh, no it isn't. See? Actually, I had my stamp upside down. Okay. This, the rounder part, that's the back of my leaf. So I'm going to put the rounded part there. I know it's the rounded part because when I put this going the right direction, it matches that stamp. Does that make sense what I'm saying, Margie?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
So I'm not sure I'm saying it real well, but you have to kind of try those leaves to see which way they go. Okay, I have one more leaf. I'm going to put this one out the top. I'm going to get both my leaf and my top section off here, so I can make sure that I have it going the right direction. And I'm going to, it looks like it should go that way, but let's find out. I'm going to set it here with the stamp side down, the back towards me. And yeah, this one will be fine. So the pointiest end goes out on that one. I'm going to close my stamp platform. I'm going to take my bright green. I have a bright tone and a darker tone. The color names may be different, but you'll still have a bright one and you'll still have a darker one. I'm going to stamp all three of these at once. Close my platform. I'm going to give that a little more color. Close it again. Now I've got really nice color saturation. Take my baby wipe. Wipe those off. I'll take my detail stamps then and put on top. The other thing that putting these on the stamp sheet will do, it'll keep you from getting confused about which pieces go with which one. Sound like the voice of experience speaking? It is. Okay. Okay, I'm putting my leaf detail over the top of my stamped leaves, making sure that the smooth side is up. Double check them, make sure the smooth side's up. I know you're going to get tired of hearing me say it, but check it every time. Also make sure that your card is slid clear into the corner every time. Let's pick those up. Use a little of our darker ink. These stamps are smaller, so I'm getting more halo around the stamps on my platform. But I'm not worried about that because I have a stamping platform. I'm going to close this, and none of that extra ink is transferring. Isn't that nice? Love that. And you can see that I got plenty of coverage just with a single layer of the darker color. When I first started using these super light colors, some of the really light ones like the aqua or the Arctic mist, I actually thought, well, maybe these aren't very juicy stamp pads. These stamp pads are plenty juicy. It's just the really, really light colors, and sometimes you just don't want a lot of color saturation, so those really light colors can come in very handy for some of our projects. Okay, now we have some other wonderful little accent pieces. Let's try those. We've got this neat branch. I like this branch. I'm going to bring this branch out. Now, because I'm using the same color, the same darker color that I used on my leaf, I can actually overlap that without masking anything, and it's going to be fine because it's going to write right over what's underneath it because the color's dark. Let's grab another of our accent pieces. At the top of your sheet, you have this wonderful little swirly thing. I like that swirly thing. You like how I use the technical words for these? This is a swirly thing, and that's a branch. What are they? I don't know, but
swirly thing's my favorite.
Yeah, the swirly thing. Okay, I'm going to move my swirly over a little bit from where I had it there, because I want it to be closer. I'm going to put a rosebud in here in a minute. So I'm going to close this up. I made sure that my stamps were facing the right direction. And I can double check that after they're on there by running my finger across, and sure enough, they're rough. I'm going to go with my darker color here, because I want to write right over what's underneath it. And I'm going to bring this on down. And now we have those pretty accents in there. I'm going to wipe this off just to keep my fingers a little bit clean for a little while. I'll be messy before it's all over with anyway, but I'm going to, I also don't want to transfer any of that ink accidentally on my sheet, so I'm going to put my branch over here, and I'm going to get another piece to work with. This time, I'm going to get this really funny looking piece right here on my stamp set. You can see that it's flat on the top. That flat part holds the base of my rosebud. Can you see that? So I have to put this on here in a way that is going to make sense. I'm going to have my rosebud coming out from under my flower. And I kind of want my rosebud facing up, so I'm going to put that so that the flat part of that, the stem of that rosebud is kind of tucking into my flower, and the flat part is still actually flat or maybe tipped just a little bit, but it's not, in some crazy direction. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead. Let's see, are there any other little things I want here? No, I think I'm good to go. So let's go ahead. I'm going to close this up. I'm going to make sure I have the right sides up on my stamps. Yep, they're rough. I'm going to put I use my dark green, right? Well, let's see. I'm going to use my light green on my base for my rosebud, and I'm going to use my dark green for my branch coming out. I can stamp with more than one thing at a time. I did kind of cross over a little bit here, nice, beautiful thing as I can see that before I do it. I'm going to put my green back on. And I'm going to go ahead and stamp this down. Okay. Now see, this one didn't transfer quite as thoroughly as I want. At one time that might have been a disaster, no longer. We just put a little bit more ink on it and close it again. Oh, I like that. I love the fact that you can do this. You can go over the same lines without messing anything up. I think that's so cool that you can do that. All right, we're finished with the stem of the rosebud. We need to put the detail on. And this detail is kind of hard to figure out. The detail to the rosebud is right next to the rosebud on your sheet. It's a crazy stamp, this one. Okay. And we are going to line that up. Now, what you have in the rosebud is you have one of the little petals off the calyx, the bottom of the rose, and then you have some filler that goes into some of the leaves. It's not real obvious how that lines up, but what I recommend that you do, guys, is line up the leaves, line up the bottom leaf, this one, see that detail there? Line that up over the bigger leaf at the bottom. And then, see, am I done with this one? No, I have one more place I want to put this one. I'm going to put a branch over here. I'm going to be careful not to overwrite my blue flower any more than I need to there. And I think I should be pretty good there. I'm going to close my platform and pick up my stamps. I'm going to make sure that I have... I told you I'm going to preach this constantly. I don't want you to be disappointed in your first one, so I'm going to keep harping on. Make sure that you have the stamp right side up. Right side up means the stamp towards your paper. I'm going to close my platform. Get my pretty detail stamped on. Now this might look a little funny right now, but it's going to look great when we put the flower on top. Okay. So, put those back on my stamp sheet here. And let's get our little flower bud. The flower bud, the base of it is right here on our stamp sheet. I'm going to get that and I'm going to set my flower bud so that it sits pretty flat across that calyx. And I might as well start stamping some of my little detail flowers in while we're going, because why not? I actually have a couple little detail stamps. This one I took from right here. This one is at the very bottom. I'm going to stamp it over here. Make sure that your stamps are headed the right direction. You want the flat side up when you pick it up with your platform. You want the rough side towards you, which it is. And let's get some color going here. Now I'm going to skip the lightest color on this and I'm going to go right to my, since this flower, the bud, only has 2 layers, I'm going to go to the medium color right off. And my little detail flowers only have have 2 layers as well. So I'm going right to the medium color this time. I'm going to stamp those down. beginning to fill in nicely, isn't it? I think we got pretty good coverage. I don't think I'm going to change anything there or do it again. I am going to move this one down here. And I'm going to get my detail stamp for my bud, which was right next to it on the stamp sheet. I'm going to put my detail in. And I'm going to get my center. Now, these flower centers are really funny little scribble looking things. See this one right below the bigger flower? That's the one we want. And don't even worry about trying to figure out which way it goes on there. Just put it in the middle of the flower in some way. It doesn't matter. Trust me on this. It really doesn't matter where it goes as long as it's in the middle of the flower. And I have a little one, which is this. Oops, I just dropped something. I felt it drop.
The one I tried to grab.
I knocked a flower off my sheet. I'll find it in a minute. I'm going to put this littler one, which just looks again like a little scribble. Make sure I got the right one here. Yeah, I do. It just looks like a little scribble, and it's going in the center of my smaller flower. I'm going to pick those up with my platform. I'm going to make sure that I have all of my stamps going the right direction. And I'm going to use my nautical blue or my French blue, whichever one you have. So I want my blue color. Whoops. I messed up. This one is going to be my lighter color. Can you see why? Because this one I wanted to go down here. And if I do it in the dark color, I'm going to not like myself for that. Now I stamped that without any ink on it, which didn't leave a mess on my sheet at all. Okay, and it looks like I got a little bit of blotchy color in my bloom. So I'm going to give that another shot. I don't think the detail in my two other flowers want it at all. And I'm going to give some periwinkle ink, or your mid-tone blue, to this other stamp. There we go, that looks a lot better. Okay, I want to move one of my little details down to catch this flower, and I'm going to wipe the others off and put them away. And it appears that the one that I have temporarily misplaced is my little tiny flower. So I take a break here after I do this and find my little stamp so it doesn't get lost. Okay, I'm going to use my darker blue on that little center. Pull it down. Look how beautiful those are, guys. Oh, it's so pretty. So pretty. Okay, I'm going to recap my inks, keep them from drying out. I'm going to wipe off my little base, and I'm going to find my flower stamp I dropped before I go any further. Okay, found my little stamp. Good thing that we looked, it was way far away. These are kind of a rubbery material these stamps are made out of, and it just bounced way away. I'm going to make mine a birthday card. Obviously, you have choices of sentiments on here. If I can flip this over without losing all my stamps again. You have sending love, celebrating you, birthday wishes, hello, and smile. All nice sentiments. I'm using birthday wishes because of all my cards. I use birthdays the most often. And I want to show you something here. I can use these little lines in my grid to make sure that my birthday's going to be nice and straight. Can you see that?
I can. I'm gonna come in
At least
just a little
somewhat.
bit tighter. Yeah.
Yeah, these little grid marks.
Good tip.
I'm going to open that up. I know my stamp is going the right direction. I'm going to get my black stamp pad out. I'm going to ink up my birthday wishes. Now this is the part that always gave me heart failure before when I would stamp, you know, back in the day, because it seemed like I always made a beautiful image and then I went to stamp it. And if you had a halo like this on your stamp, or you had not enough ink somewhere, it didn't transfer clearly, and then it felt like my image, or, you know, my project was ruined. Look at that. That's absolutely impeccable. But had it not been impeccable, I could re-ink, close it, and get a beautiful stamped image because it's going to stamp in exactly the same spot. We are actually finished with Project 1. The finishing touches to Project 1 are that I cut it to, you know me, I like European A6. I covered my card with one of my pieces of my Imperial Blue Mary. I cut this down slightly smaller. I applied my image, leaving the nice blue around the edges. And then I used some stickles and I just lightly highlighted my flowers. I didn't try and do every petal. I did just the centers of the tinier flowers. I outlined the bud, I outlined the whole big flower and the whole middle flower, and then I went in and just hit a few of the petals on the inside, just enough to add some sparkle and shine, a little glamour to our finished card, and I think it's really, really pretty. So that's Project 1 done. I hope you're liking this. It's fun, it's easy, it's rewarding because you get great projects. Let's move on to Project 2. You're going to get another piece of your stamping card out. Now, I gave you more than you're going to use. You're probably looking at that stash of 4 or 5, whatever I gave you. I think I gave you 5. But you're probably looking at that and thinking, man, how many things are we going to do? We're just doing 2 on camera, but I do have some additional ideas for you to try if you're wanting to continue working with your platform, working with your stamps, because it's fun when you got something new, you know, your new toy, you want to keep going. So next we're going to do this one. And this one's going to have a couple of interesting little twists to it. The first thing that I want to do is I'm actually going to take my good card out. I'm going to put my scratch paper in. And actually I think I want a thinner piece of scratch paper. Would you grab me a piece of typing paper? Oh, I have one. Never mind. I'll explain this to you in a little bit. I just want a little piece of this bottom part. I don't want it to be real high, so I'm going to slice a little part off my... The first thing we're going to do is we're going to stamp a mask. And I'm going to put my paper down just as I normally would. I'm going to get my largest bloom. I'm going to position it on my scratch paper, making sure that the stamping side is down and the smooth side is towards me. And pick it up, I can make sure because I have ridges on the front that I have the right way. Now, I am going to use my dark stamp pad, because why not? It'll be easier to cut around. And I'm going to close this and I stamp that dark image. I'm going to clean up my mess here, wiping that away. Isn't this cleanup easy? I love the cleanup. I gotta tell you guys, I've never been really good about getting my stamps cleaned right away, but this is a really easy way to keep your stamps in nice condition. I'm going to take this and I'm going to cut around it. Now, I don't have to be absolutely precise in my cutting around it, but I am going to cut around so that I have what we're calling a mask. Those of you who've done stamping before know where we're headed with this. If you haven't seen this before, this is a really nifty technique for creating layers in your stamping without stamping images over the top of each other. Now you'll recall that in our last card we did kind of stamp over a little bit. We stamped darker colors over the lighter colors, and then that hid the lighter colors, and that's one way of doing it. But sometimes you're going to want to have a really precise placement of something. And you're not going to want all those extra lines. Let's say we are doing a teddy bear birthday party card, and we've got a teddy bear and we've got a gift. We want to be able to position that stamp so that the bear is holding the gift, but that we don't have what would be behind the gift in the bear's hand stamping right over the present. What we would do in that situation is we'll use a mask, which is what we just created. And we would have a mask for the gift, and we would stamp the bear's hand last, and only the parts of the bear's hand that are behind the gift would show, just around the gift. That's what masking can do for us. I'm going to show you more vividly as we go here, because that sample might not make a lot of sense to you, but I'm going to show you what this will do. We're going to start the creation of this card. Now this one's going to go up and down. So I'm going to have a couple of flowers, and we're going to have to do these in layers. So I'm going to put this one here. It's tempting to put the bloom out there, but I will tell you guys that it's hard to match the bloom to the stem unless you put the stem in first. So I'm going to put my bloom down first. And I actually have two of these on this card. So I'm going to start here. I'm going to make sure my bloom's headed the right direction, and it is. I'm going to go to my lightest color, my Arctic Mist, or your lightest blue. I'm going to stamp that down. And I have a very light impression, but that's okay, because I'm going to hit it again. And I'm going to actually hit it a third time because I want a really good saturation of color on this base level. There we go. Now I have a nice outline of my rose. I'm going to wipe that off. I'm going to move my rose down here. I'm going to change my angle on my rose just a little bit because I don't want it to be obvious that it's the same flower. I'm going to position this one. Make sure that I'm going the right direction here. Okay, so that's the top of the rose. So I'm going to lean this one a little bit towards the side just to make it look a little different. I'm going to pull my platform down. And make sure my cardstock's clear up in the corner. I'm going to make sure that I have the right side of my stamp showing. It is, because it's rough. And I'm going to stamp this flower in. Very, very light. And you can see where it picked up some moisture from the baby wipe. That's okay, because we can go right over the top of that. That little bit of moisture from the baby wipe isn't going to hurt anything. And as we go, the moisture will dry. Get a good saturation of color. That looks good. Next, I'm going to wipe that off. I'm going to get a medium-sized rose. Now at this point I'm not going to worry about masking for this. Why? Because it's the same color. So I might have just a little bit more color intensity here, but that's not going to hurt anything. I'm positioning that rose between my two other roses. I'm going to make sure that I have the rough side of my stamp facing me, and I do. That just felt like it moved. I'm going to wipe it off. I'm going to put it back on my sheet because I want to make sure it's going in the right position. I'm going to close this. I'm going to ink it back up now. Usually they don't move. That's the first time I've had that happen. But I'm glad I caught it. We'd have been able to work around it anyway, but nice not to have to. And you can see that our color's becoming a little bit more intense in some parts of the flower. I'm not too worried about that. If I was worried about it, I could go ahead and put my, figure out which way my mask goes. It goes this way. I could put my mask there. You see what your mask is going to be used for? It's covering up so that this will not stamp right onto my other flower. And I pick this up. Okay, so, and if I look at my mask, this color's so light I can't even see it. I was going to say, if I look at my mask, sometimes I can tell what part of it would have been on my flower, but it's so light that you can't see it. Okay, I'm going to take my middle section for both flowers. I'm going to go ahead and put my middle section on this one first. It will help when you're putting on your second stamps. It will help you remember to get them the right direction because they don't want to line up as well, going the wrong way if your first image is stamped right. And I can't get to that one yet. I'm going to go ahead and close my cover. It's rough on the top. I know I have it going the right way. Take my periwinkle, or whatever your mid-tone blue is. Put it over the top. Loving that. I'm going to give it a second shot. I'm going to take this off. I'm going to come down to my lower flower. I miss having you guys talk back to me. I'm getting quite used to that. I'm really enjoying these live stream classes. Okay, I know I have it the right direction because the rough side is up. is this. I had just a little bit off that time. I'm going to leave it alone. I'm going to let it sit right where it is. It still looks good. I just positioned the second layer a little differently than I thought I did. It's still going to look great because it's all still within the outline of my initial flower. Do you see what I mean? I kind of positioned it a little bit differently. I thought I was further down here, but because of the base color underneath, it still looks perfect. And actually, I guess from even the first one, there's a part of that that just doesn't cover, and that may be what I'm seeing. Okay.
No one would ever know.
Okay. And now I'm going to get my second layer to my blue, and I'm going to put it over my in-between flower here. And did I wipe that already? Put this one away. Line my second layer up. And I'm going to add my periwinkle. Pretty. And I'm going to take that off. And now's where I'm going to want to do a little masking, perhaps. I'm going to put down my third layer onto my little flower. And I don't want all the extra petal marks to show on here, because I want my flower to look like this little one is kind of tucked between the two big flowers. Do you see that? Mm-hmm. So I don't want any of the extra blue marks going out over the top of this flower, because I want it to look like it's tucked behind. So I'm going to use my mask. I'm going to put it over the top of my flower, my big flower here. There's not much of it that overlaps, but it's still a good point for beginning the illustration of masking. I'm going to put my mask down, and everything where I want it. I'm going to pick up my stamp. Now, I will tell you something that's really, really handy. I didn't have one handy when I did this. Make your mask on a Post-it note, and it will stick to your paper better. How's that for an idea? It won't pick up your ink, and it will stick better to your...
Can you use an extra magnet if you had one of those extra magnets?
Yeah. In fact, that's a great idea. Let's put it right there. That's a great idea. That's why she gets the big bucks, guys. You hear her laughing.
She does a good job of paying me.
Oh. Okay. There are those who would disagree. I think I can name about 3 of them. But
I'm happy.
Alrighty, here I'm going to wipe this off. I'm going to grab my big flower, bring in my detail to my big flower. I'm going to line this up along here. My big flower is not really going onto my little flower, and even if it did, just a little bit, the big flowers are in the front, right? Mm-hmm. So that's okay. So I'm going to put my ink on my big flower. I'm going to close this down, not worrying about the halo around it, because it's not going to go on my paper. Look how pretty that is. I love this. This is just so much fun. Okay, I hope you guys are having fun. I'm having a great time. More fun if you were here with me, but, you know, we do what we have to do. Okay. I just have gotten, oops, I still needed that big flower because I didn't put the detail on this one yet. Okay. And again, I'm not as worried if it overlaps just a tad onto my little flower because it's in the front. Making sure that my rose is headed the right direction. Remember when I told you I was going to get inky no matter what? Well, I can try, guys, but I will always be messy. I will never be one of those people that unless I have to for safety reasons, you won't catch me wearing gloves. Yes. I like to get into my work. There's our roses. Aren't they beautiful? Okay, let's start filling in some of our other good stuff. Now, we want to get some foliage and things, and I want my foliage to come out from under my flower. See here? I've got this one tucked way in there, and I've got this one partially tucked in there. So I'm going to bring this foliage, I'm going to put down my mask right over the top. I'm going to put my magnet on. I'm going to put my foliage in, and I'm going to bring this right about there. I'm going to get another piece of my foliage, and this time I'm going to use these little berries. And let's put these berries coming out this side. Our mask is magneted down. Thank you, Margie. What a great idea. Again, Post-it notes work great for that too. I'm going to close my press. It's especially easy to mess up with these little ones. You see what I just did? This was upside down, and all it would have given me was a big smear. So I'm going to reposition it. Fortunately, sometimes they'll fall off the back if it's just the detail and not the flat side of the stamp, so that can help you like it did me right there. But I would have caught it because I'm checking it every time to make sure that the rough side is up. I'm going to put my green on my foliage. Now you can make these berries any color you want. In fact, I made them 2 different colors. This time I'm going to use my nautical blue. And I don't have to worry about just inking part of my stem, even though I only want part of my stem to show. I can ink the whole thing because my mask is going to catch what I don't want to use. Oh, I scared myself there for a second. I thought, how come it showed? It showed because that's the mask, guys. Oh dear. In a day where technology has not been my friend, I just assumed it's one more thing I did wrong. Okay, I'm going to reposition my magnet a little bit because I want to make some more berries. I want these berries to come through here. And I didn't wipe those off. I should have because it will get ink on my card. And I'm going to put this one coming out from, where do I want it? I can't do this at the same time as the berries. because I need the mask in 2 different areas, so I'm just going to do the berries this time. Now, if I want my berries to be lighter, I can just grab my periwinkle and I can stamp it here. And see, now my berries are a lot lighter than they are in the other place. I still got my mask in place. I'm going to use my vines this time. And I want to stamp this little piece of a vine. Do you see that? It's just a little piece of a vine hanging out here. Take this one off. And I want to use it somewhere. I really don't have, well, I could put it here if I wanted. I didn't have it on my original, but why not? If it gets cut off, it doesn't hurt anything. And I'm going to pick those up. I'm going to make sure my rough side is up. I'm going to put my ink on. I'm going to use, maybe I'll use my darker blue this time since I used the light blue last time. And you see all these pieces that are overlapping? All that's going on our mask. Nothing's going on our card. And this time, I'm going to take this ink off. And I don't know if you saw it in the card sample, but I want a little extra sprig sticking out here. But this time I'm going to make it in the lighter green. So I'm going to pick this up. I'm not going to worry about where it overlaps the darker because it's not going to show because the dark's already there. But I do want just a little bit of highlight leaves in the background here. I can see that my stamp is the right side up. I'm going to stamp this. And look, now I have that little shadow of leaves back there that's pretty. I'm going to give it another shot. It didn't look, when I wiped it off, it had a bit of moisture on it still, and it didn't come out real dark. There we go. But isn't that pretty? Now, look what happens when we remove our mask, guys. Everything's coming out from under the flower. Isn't that pretty? So let's move our mask to our larger flower. I can use the same mask over and over again. If I wanted to work faster, I could have my magnet on top. Smart Margie. I'm going to wipe off my stuff because I don't want my ink smearing on my card. And I'm going to take this one right at the top because that one looked pretty. And I'm going to take this one and I'm going to take it, oh, I was going to put on a bud. I should probably do that before I go much further. I've already got this put down, so let me go ahead and get a couple of these in here. I'm going to put some berries here. Close this. I was stamping for a long time before I learned how to mask things. So you guys who are just getting started, I know there's a couple of you that for you it's your very first time stamping. It's actually a really, really cool technique. It's very easy. And because it's easy, it's fun. And I love the layering that you can get when you're masking off the... You're really masking what's in the foreground, and you're creating the background. You do the foreground first. It takes a little planning to do that, but you're actually doing the front of your picture first and then creating the back because you're masking that. You can't do it the other way around, because if you were doing that, you would have all the lines there already on your paper, right? Now I show you I'm going to do something just a little bit differently. Just because I don't want to create another mask for this little flower, I could. But I want part of this vine and I don't want the whole vine. Can you see that? You see what I'm talking about there, Margie?
Mm-hmm.
I want this, I want 4 petals plus the one, and I don't want to take the time to cut a mask. I want to make sure first that my stamps are going the right direction, and they are. And I can look at this, and I can stamp. I can ink just the parts I want of my stamp, too. And I do have to figure out which one's going to go on that side. So I want this leaf, but I don't want the other leaf. So you can do things like that, but you're actually use that with care because you can end up kind of messing stuff up fairly easily too. But you can get by with doing that, just inking the part of the stamp you want to use. You use this a lot when you're doing things like using a pen to add your color. We can actually take our color for our stamping from ink pads. We can use paint. We can use a water-based marker on our stamp. And we can color only the parts we want to use, which is kind of cool. I'm going to put this one in. This time I'm going to layer it so most of it's on my mask. Take my berries off because I'm done with those there. I can move it over here. I know I said I'm going to do my rosebud, and I am, but I'm going to put those there. And let's get my periwinkle. I do believe that moved again. I don't know why I'm having trouble with that, other than maybe I'm getting my stamps too wet. That could be. My baby wipe is pretty moist. It's at the end of the package, and all the fluid from the baby wipes is dropped down on them. So it might just be the level of moisture that I have. But I can come back in and pick it up again. I'm going to use periwinkle on this one. I'm going to use my dark green. Use my dark green on this one. To me, this kind of looks a little bit like leaves and baby's breath.
Yeah.
In an arrangement, you know? Okay. I think I've gone about as far as I can go without putting on my rosebud. So let's get that inked up and on here. Now remember, your stem comes down. You're looking for that flat area. Now this time my rosebud's going to be coming up from under my main flower too. So I'm letting part of the stem sit on my mask, okay? I'm going to open that. I'm going to make sure I have the right side up, which I do. I'm also making sure that my card is firmly seated in the corner of my stamp platform, because if I have to come back in and do something, I want it to be in the same place. There's my green. And I'm going to give it just a little bit more green, I think. Just a little bit more. There we go. A little more intensity in my color. I'll take that off. Let's put my detail on. This is the toughest stamp in the set to match. But just remember to match the leaf and let everything else take care of itself. The leaf on the bottom will get you where you're going. Okay. I'm stamping my dark green over my detail and my calyx for my rosebud. Okay, we come back in with our rosebud itself. We need the base of the flower. And again, I'm going to go right to, I could use my lightest color, but I'm going to go right to my medium color so that it will show. Get my periwinkle out here. Whatever your medium blue color is. Oh, that looks nice. Okay, now let's get our detail for our rosebud. Thank you for grabbing a paper towel, Margie. Get our detail here. Set it right on top of our rosebud. Close that. And get my nautical blue. Not worried about the halo I'm going to have all over because it's not going on my card. How pretty is that, guys? Oh, it's getting prettier and prettier. Okay. There we go. Move this. And I want to put in some more berries up here, right next to that, because I think that will look pretty cool. Coming right through here. Now, it's going to stamp on top of my leaves, but this blue is such an intense color that it's just going to cover up the green where it hits the same space. I'm going to make sure that my stamps are going the wrong way, the right way, not the wrong way, the right way. I'm going to give it a little bit of ink here. Bring it down, because I like that kind of berries look right next to my bud. Okay. And where else do we need some detail? Looks like we need a couple more of our branches, and we're just about done with this. I'm going to put this one coming out from here. And it was upside down, but I quickly found that and fixed it. It's very easy to do, guys. That's why I keep preaching on checking it, checking it, checking it. Because that's the most frustrating thing you can do with a stamp holder, is if it's going the wrong way, it's going to frustrate you. I promise that that would be the case, and eventually you're going to do it. So when you do, don't get mad. Just say, okay, I knew it was going to happen, it did, and now
Let's try again. There you go.
Okay, we're going to wipe this off. I'm going to put this down so that it comes out over here. I'm not worried if it goes over the top of my berries just a little bit, because that's going to look fine. I'm going to pull this down. I'm going to ink that up. Put in another branch here. Okay, and I see a couple little light ones that I did in here just to add some dimension to our stamped image. So I'm going to put a green one that's lighter green coming out from here. I'm not going to worry if it overlaps my darker images a little bit, because it's going to fade to the background because the dark colors are darker than this green is. Does that make sense? You'll see. when I put that in. All it did was add a little dimension. I'm liking the way this is looking. I think we're there. Let's decide where we want to put our greeting. Wipe off my branch. Put it back on my sheet. Put my berries back on my sheet so I'm not losing anything. And this time I said sending love. We can certainly use that again if we want to. I have a little more open space down here this time, I see. I may move it down here and let the top of that be. Oh, we can remove our mask too. There we go. Everything's coming out from under our flowers. See that? How cool is that? And let's see. What was this one again? Come on, there. It's really attached. Celebrating you. That's a nice birthday sentiment. I think I'm going to try putting it down here. Now I had envisioned that this was going to be a A2 card. It may end up being a little bigger than that. That's okay. Or I can trim down my image and just use the parts of my image I like the best. I'm going to put my celebrating you here. I'm not going to worry if it overlaps my flowers just a little. I'm going to check my grid marks and make sure. I'm not going to worry if it overlaps my flowers just a little, because guess what? My black is darker than any of the colors that I used. So black will dominate and black will show in the front. Bring this down. I get a perfect greeting. It does get just a little fuzzy when I get it into the darker area, but you can certainly tell what I'm saying. And interesting. My berries look a little bit darker here, or maybe I just got them closer to my bud. I'm not loving that. So I may just trim this just a little to just caps back on. Let me see. I definitely want the celebrating you to all show. I will maybe trim this down just a bit. Let's see how wide this is. It's a 6-inch card, so I may not have to take off very much. Let's take off the outside first. I'm going to go up here. And actually, this would fit an A2 really well. 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. I'm going to hand me an A2 card, Margie, out of the top drawer of cards over there. It's when I'm looking at this, I'm thinking I can almost get a A6 if I wanted. One of the really nice things about having a lighted paper cutter is that you can see exactly how that's going to cut compared to your, yeah, that's it. How that's going to cut compared to your stamped image. Oh, this is going to look nice. I think I'll go ahead and make this a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. So I'm going to take just a little bit off this side. But I can see right through my card, and I can see where it's going to, what it's going to cut off and what it's going to leave. there. I'm just going to have about 1/8 of an inch line around it if I do this much. If I want to take a little bit more off, I can. So we go to, I'll take a little sliver off there. Cover my card. Oh, this is not a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. This is a European A6. That's in the wrong drawer. I thought, what did I do?
I just have cream ones.
Yeah, that's fine. I don't mind if it's cream because I'm going to cover it anyway. Oh, that's way better.
I knew that they were off, but looking for white.
Okay. I'm going to cover my card with some Maryboard very quickly here. Then I'm going to show you a couple more examples that you can do, and we will be done for today. But I do want to show you a couple little inspiration pieces that are fun and easy to do. With the materials that you have on hand, with the possible exception of a blending tool. If you have a blending tool, you can do one of them. If you don't, next week's kit will have a blending tool. So we will be able to do all kinds of fun things with blended backgrounds. I wanted to show you how this was going to look because I did cut quite a bit off of it, but it's still going to be beautiful. This is one reason when we're stamping, you know, everyone's going to turn out a little bit differently. And it's nice when you're stamping if you can wait to choose the size until you see how your stamped image turns out. So using a little bit bigger piece of paper and then stamping your greeting. Look how this is going to look, guys. That's way different than this one. Same techniques, slightly different. This one will pop a little bit more when I get the stickles on it, but you can certainly see the with and without. And this one's done. I have to finish stamping it and stickle it, but it's done. Let's take a look at what you can do with some of your extra card if you want to. Like I said, I sent you more than I figured you'd need. Let's look at this sample. This sample has been done using our masking techniques. I knew that I was going to do a 6x6, so I started by blending my border. And what I meant by blending my border is I used my blending tool and my blue inks, and I swirled it on. If you've done blending techniques in the past, you're going to know what that means. If you have not, just hold on this one till next week and you can do this one later. Because next week we're going to talk about blending these backgrounds and creating background papers and borders. But same stamping techniques here. You can still do this part even if you don't do the blended part. I started with my rose in the center. I built my bud up. I added all of my other things using my little well-used mask. Look at all the pieces that we left on there, but those don't show in our blossom. So I thought this was really pretty. So that will be fun to do. I also thought, I wonder with these really subtle colors, what it would look like to just make a background piece. I did not use the more vibrant colors. I only used the background colors. And I'm going to get in here where you can see that if I'm not messing you up, Margie, by coming in closer.
I came in close too, so between the two of us, we're
okay.
good.
What I did here was I created a very faint background, yes, using my lighter colors. I did do some blending in the background. I used my blending tool and I very softly put down a coat of very, very light blue in my blended background. I used my periwinkle and my Arctic mist, and I just put down a very soft background. And then I stamped my Arctic mist over the top, and I believe I have like 4 layers in order for that to show on top of a background. But I put my Arctic mist here, I stamped off of this image, I stamped off the sides. See how I did that? Be sure if you're doing that, of course, that you're putting some copy paper or something under your cardstock so you're not stamping all over your foam. And I put another one here, and then I put my second layer on there, and it just was such a subtle print. And then I put my branch in just the soft green. I only use the upper part of my leaves to just kind of give a semblance of a leaf. Here, 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 here. And I created this really soft background. Then I decided what I wanted to say, and I decided that I wanted to say sending healing prayers and comforting hugs. Somehow it just looked like that kind of a message. I went to my computer, I opened my word processor, I created a text box that was the same size as the paper that I wanted to use. I typed my message in and centered it. I ran this through my printer. I just printed this white sheet, just normally. Then I took my image, my stamped image that I had just made. I taped it down over, I taped my produced background over this message. Tape it down nice and thoroughly with a low-tack tape, with your purple tape, or if you have that orange tape from us, that works good. But low-tack tape, if you don't have low-tack tape, take your masking tape and stick it to your skin, stick it to your clothes, make it less tacky so it won't tear up your image. And I taped this piece of cardstock right over that text box. I put this upside down in my printer because mine prints that direction. I put this in my printer and I printed the message directly onto my cardstock. So if you haven't tried that before, that's really fun because that means that you can stamp any message you want on your card. You're not limited to the stamps that you have. So fun and easy way to get words on your card. Might sound complicated, but really isn't. Once you figure out how to make a text box and make that box the size that you want your printing to be, then you just type in whatever you want and center it. Tape your item that you want to write on, right down over the top of a printed copy of that box. And there you go. Margie wanted me to show you some of my trials and errors. I made this card in 2 or 3 different color combinations before we decided on the blue. I told you what happened here. There was my fail on my leaf because I wasn't keeping track, but I think this would have been really pretty using the blues, and then I was going to use the little yellow. I was going to use little yellow flowers. If you have both next week's kit and this week's kit already, you have yellow. So I think that would have been pretty with yellow flowers in it. This one, Bryce actually did when we were playing. I'm not sure I'm supposed to tell you that, but he did. And he did it with pink and kind of burgundy. Now you'll see that he didn't get his bud laid flat on top of his, the calyx there. So you turn your bud so that it's laying, the bottom lays flat across the calyx. But I think his concept was really pretty, and then he used some of the little accent pieces out of the kit to put little pink smudges on his card, and I think that's pretty the way he did that. But pink was really pretty. Here's one I did in all yellows. And I do like the yellow and the green. It was almost a toss-up between the yellow and and the blue. And then I decided what we were going to do for this class for next week. And I decided I wanted you to have the blue colors, and because I was going to be giving you the yellow range in this. And this is our next Thursday class. We are going to have so much fun. These look like they're really complicated backgrounds. They're actually quite easy to do and so beautiful. So that's it for our stamping. Remember to tune in this Saturday, just a couple days from now, to do our Midnight Butterflies. If you don't have your kit yet, we still have a few. And that will do it. If you're not already signed up for our YouTube channel, you'll want to do that. Please give me the thumbs up if you think this video is worth watching, and if you enjoy working with us on our projects. That's my attaboy to say we like what you're doing. And I will, if you're not already signed up for the newsletter, be sure you do that, because I'm going to be sending a copy of the newsletter out with a link to this video, as well as any supplies we used in the video. I'm Debbie from Simply Special Crafts, and we'll see you next time.